don't forget to subscribe. Big things are coming. Morgan Freeman walked slowly into the boutique, dressed modestly in a clean dark sweater, a gray flat cap, and black jeans. It was a well-known clothing store in the heart of the city, polished floors, soft lighting, and shelves filled with carefully folded designer pieces. A few people inside recognized him instantly but were too polite or too stunned to approach. Morgan moved with grace and humility, scanning racks of shirts, jackets, and trousers like any other customer. His fingers brushed against the fabrics with curiosity, occasionally pausing to lift a sleeve or check a price tag. He wasn't looking for anything flashy. He wasn't chasing the latest trend or showing off. He simply wanted something comfortable, something of good quality but not extravagant. After about 10 minutes of browsing, he noticed a woman standing behind the counter, a store assistant in her late 20s, blonde, tall, sharp eyes. A rigid stance as though she'd been trained to read people the moment they walked in. Morgan approached her casually, his deep, warm voice resonating softly. "Excuse me, miss? Could you help me with something?" She glanced up from her phone, then did a double take when she saw him. Her eyes widened briefly, and for a second she seemed caught off guard. But her expression quickly shifted into something unreadable, neutral but cold. "Sure," she said, without enthusiasm. "What do you need?" Morgan smiled gently, not sensing any hostility yet, and gestured toward a section near the back. "I've been looking around for a bit, and I was wondering, what would you say is the best clothing you have here? But something that's not too expensive." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as though the question offended her. She looked him up and down, and though she didn't say it out loud, her face said enough. There was judgment there, something beneath the surface. "Well," she said slowly, almost sarcastically, "most people who shop here don't really ask for what's cheap." Morgan tilted his head, puzzled. "I didn't say cheap," he clarified with a calm, steady tone. "I said not too expensive. There's a difference." The woman crossed her arms, unimpressed. "Right. Well, I guess we have some clearance items in the back, if that's what you're looking for." She didn't move to guide him, didn't smile, didn't offer help beyond the bare minimum. Morgan blinked, still maintaining his composure. "I wasn't trying to find a discount," he said. "I just wanted to know what you thought was a good choice, quality, fit, style, but not something overpriced." "Something simple. I like things simple." The woman's lips curled in a faint, dismissive smirk. "Sure. But if you're worried about the price, maybe you're in the wrong store." Morgan's eyes held hers for a moment. Not confrontational, just searching for the reason behind the tone, the sudden shift in her demeanor. "Do you always talk to customers like this?" he asked, his voice still calm but tinged with disappointment. "Only the ones who act like they can't afford to be here," she said, her voice sharper now. "Look, I know who you are, Mr. Freeman. Everyone does. But if you're going to walk in here and ask for something that's not expensive, what are we supposed to think? You're a millionaire, right? Why are you wasting time with the cheap stuff?" The words hung in the air like smoke, slowly wrapping around the silence that followed. A few nearby shoppers paused, unsure if they were hearing things right. Morgan stood very still, absorbing the words. The hurt wasn't visible, but it was there, somewhere deep in his chest. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't scold her. He just looked at her with quiet sadness, as though she'd broken something invisible. "I asked a simple question," he said. "And you turned it into something else entirely," she scoffed. "I just don't get why someone like you would bother looking at anything but the premium line." "What, you trying to make a statement or something?" "No," Morgan replied. I'm just a man trying to buy some clothes. She laughed, not kindly. Then maybe you should go find a store that suits your budget. He raised an eyebrow. And what budget do you think I have? Clearly not the kind that belongs here, she snapped. Her voice had risen slightly now, drawing more attention. A man in a nearby aisle slowly moved away, sensing the tension. Morgan looked down for a moment, then back up at her. Why are you doing this? He asked, not angry, just tired. Because I don't buy the whole humble act, she said. You people come in here thinking you're special, trying to prove something by dressing down or playing modest. It's fake. And I've seen enough of it. His voice grew quieter. You people? She froze slightly, realizing too late what she'd said. But instead of apologizing, she doubled down. You know what I mean. Rich celebrities. Trying to blend in, acting like they're just like the rest of us. But you're not. Morgan took a slow breath. I think you meant something else. She said nothing, just stared at him. The moment stretched, uncomfortable and cold. Morgan finally turned his gaze toward the window, then back to her. It's a shame, he murmured. I thought this place looked nice. I didn't expect the welcome to be this bitter. The woman didn't respond. Her posture stiffened, and there was a flicker of defensiveness in her eyes, as though she knew she'd gone too far but wasn't about to back down. Morgan glanced back at the rack of jackets he'd been considering, then looked around the store. Everyone else had gone silent. No music played, no footsteps echoed. Just silence and watching eyes. You ever think, he said slowly, that not everyone who walks in here is trying to prove something? Some people are just living. Just breathing. Just choosing how they want to be treated. She rolled her eyes. Spare me the speech. And that was when the front door opened, and someone else stepped inside the store. The woman squinted at him a little longer, as if confirming her suspicion, then her mouth curled into a smirk that no longer tried to hide its condescension. You're Morgan Freeman, she said flatly, her voice laced with mock surprise. I knew I recognized you. That voice, that face. I mean, come on. You're famous. Her tone wasn't respectful, it was accusatory, as if he'd committed some offense by existing in her store. Morgan nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am, that's me. She scoffed, shaking her head as if his presence was somehow an inconvenience. You're worth millions. You've starred in more movies than I can count. What are you doing here asking about what's not expensive? You really expect me to believe someone like you can't afford better? Morgan's expression didn't change. He looked at her, taking in her words, studying the shape of her disgust as it revealed itself like a curtain being pulled back. I didn't say I couldn't afford it, he answered gently. I said I don't need the most expensive thing in the store. That's all. I like what I like. But she wasn't listening, her voice sharpened, irritated now. No, see, I don't buy it. Guys like you come in here pretending to be down to earth, asking for cheap stuff to make a point, like you're above money. But you're not. You've got more money than anyone in this store will ever see. So why are you slumming it here like this? Morgan blinked slowly. The silence around them thickened. His hands remained calmly at his sides, but his eyes reflected the growing storm inside. I came in here to shop, he said. I didn't ask to be interrogated. I didn't ask for assumptions. I just wanted to be treated like anyone else. She shook her head, stepping back, arms crossed again. You've got the whole world worshipping you. You walk into a place like this and ask for the cheapest thing, it's insulting. What are you trying to do, test me? See how I react? You're not fooling anyone. Morgan inhaled deeply, his patience being chipped away piece by piece. I don't wear flashy suits. I don't drape myself in gold. I don't walk around with security guards or an entourage. That's not me. I'm a simple man. I've always been one. I've worked hard, yes, and I've been fortunate. But that doesn't mean I need to live like I'm above others. That doesn't mean I have to flaunt my money every second of the day. Her eyes hardened. Then go flaunt it somewhere else. Because if you're not here to spend real money, we don't need your kind wasting our time. I've got real customers to deal with. Morgan's lips parted slightly, the words stinging more than they should have. My kind? He repeated slowly. And what kind is that? She didn't flinch. You know what I mean, she muttered. Guys who act like they're something special because they think humility makes them better. You want cheap clothes? Go to a thrift shop. Don't come in here pretending you're one of us. Morgan stared at her in disbelief. It wasn't the words, not exactly. It was the venom underneath them, the presumptions, the disrespect, the barely masked bias. You're angry, he said. But not at me. I don't know what's going on in your life, but you've made a lot of assumptions about me just by looking at me. Do you do that with everyone, or is it just me? She sneered. Don't try to psychoanalyze me, Mr. Freeman. Just take your cheap taste and get out. For a moment he didn't speak. He looked down at the shirt he was holding, a simple dark blue button-up, nothing fancy, but well made. He looked back up at her, searching again for something, some flicker of humanity, but it was gone. She'd built a wall around herself, and nothing was getting through. I don't understand why you're doing this, he said at last, quieter now. I came in here respectfully. I asked for help. And you've turned it into something ugly. Why? Her face twisted. Because I don't like being lied to. And I definitely don't like being patronized. Rich guys pretending they're average. It's a game, and I'm not playing. He set the shirt down slowly on the counter, carefully, as though not to damage it. His hands were steady, but there was pain in his eyes now, a quiet, deep ache. It's not a game, he said. It's my life. I lived through segregation. I worked jobs most people wouldn't look twice at. I was nobody for a long time before I was anybody. And now, when I just want to be treated like a human being, you stand there and treat me like I'm some kind of fraud. You talk about money like it's the only thing that defines a person. She rolled her eyes again, but there was a flicker of discomfort in her expression. He continued. You see a black man in a store, dressed modestly, asking for something reasonable, and instead of kindness or even indifference, you give me hostility. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. She snapped. I know people like you play humble when it suits them. He shook his head. No, you don't know anything. You've seen movies. You've read headlines. But you don't know me. I'm not here to prove anything to you. I just wanted a shirt. That's it. And you turned it into an attack. Her jaw clenched, but she had nothing more to say. She stood rigid, as if daring him to keep talking. Morgan finally sighed. He wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of being misjudged. Tired of fighting battles that should have been over long ago. Tired of people like her assuming things they had no right to. Then she said it. You want to know the truth? I don't like rich people. Especially rich black men who think they're above everyone else. There. You happy? Morgan's eyes widened just slightly. The room around them froze. A few gasps came from nearby shoppers. The air became heavy. Thick. Her words echoed louder than she expected. And suddenly, the front door opened again. A gust of cool air swept in as a tall man in a sleek black suit stepped into the store. He looked to be in his 50s, sharp, confident, with the kind of presence that demanded attention without saying a word. His eyes scanned the room, landing immediately on Morgan. They lit up with recognition. "Morgan?" he called out, walking forward with a broad smile. Morgan turned slowly, surprised but relieved. "Daniel?" The man stepped forward and extended a hand. "I thought that was you. What brings you to my store today?" The woman behind the counter paled instantly, her lips parting slightly in confusion and fear. "Your store?" she whispered. Daniel looked at her briefly, puzzled by her tone. "Yes," he said simply. "I own this place. Morgan and I go way back." He turned back to Morgan, his smile returning. "Everything all right?" Morgan hesitated, then glanced back at the woman, who was now stiff and pale as paper. "I'd say no," he replied calmly. "Your employee here doesn't seem to think I belong here. She made it clear I should leave if I'm not willing to buy the most expensive thing in the shop. She also made some colorful remarks about rich black men." Daniel's face changed instantly. The warmth drained, replaced by stunned silence, then disbelief, and finally a hard, cold stare directed at the woman. "Is that true?" he asked her, his voice deadly calm. She stammered, the mask of arrogance finally cracking. He was just acting weird. I didn't mean it like that. He was stop," Daniel said, raising a hand. "Just stop. Go to the back. Now." She hesitated, then stormed away without another word, her footsteps echoing across the floor. Daniel looked back at Morgan, visibly embarrassed. "I'm so sorry, Morgan. That shouldn't have happened. I had no idea someone like that was working here." Morgan nodded slowly, his expression softening. "You didn't do it. But thank you," Daniel exhaled. "I'll deal with her. Personally." "You're welcome here any time. Whatever you need on the house." Morgan raised a hand. "I appreciate it, but I'll pay." "I just wanted to shop. That's all." Daniel nodded respectfully. "Of course. I'll have someone else assist you." And just like that, a new clerk approached, nervous but polite, and led Morgan back toward the racks. The tension began to ease, but the lesson lingered, like dust that doesn't settle. She stood there, her jaw clenched, her eyes cold, arms folded like she was daring him to say another word, and when she finally spoke again, her voice had no hesitation, no shame, only venom. "You want to know the truth?" she said. "I don't like people like you. I don't like black men who get rich and walk around like they're humble saints. You want the cheapest thing in the store? Go to a flea market. Not here. This store isn't for you." Morgan stared at her, his entire body still, as if frozen in place by the weight of her words, not just the insult but the conviction behind them. He blinked slowly, letting the silence wrap around them, the kind that makes every passerby pause mid-step, ears perking up, hearts suddenly aware they're hearing something they shouldn't be. But she wasn't done. "You think being rich and black makes you better than anyone? You think you can come in here and act all modest and noble and I'm supposed to play along? You're not special. Not here. You want cheap clothes, you can get them somewhere else. or I'll call security, and they'll make sure you never walk in here again." She reached under the counter, as if to grab a phone or push a button. And that was the moment the door behind them swung open. A tall man stepped inside, the bell above the entrance chiming weakly compared to the storm inside. He was dressed in a gray suit, simple but elegant, his shoes polished, his face calm but alert. As soon as he crossed the threshold, his eyes scanned the store, stopping when he saw Morgan standing silently, the shirt still lying folded on the counter, and the woman behind it with fury etched across her face. "Morgan?" the man said, his voice cutting through the tension like a clean blade. Morgan turned, a flicker of relief breaking through the weight of what had just happened. "George," he said, his voice calm but full of quiet familiarity. The man's face broke into a brief smile as he walked toward him. "I thought that was you. What brings you here?" The woman behind the counter took a step back. "Wait, you two know each other?" she asked, the panic already building behind her forced tone. George didn't look at her. He reached out to shake Morgan's hand firmly. "This is my store," he said. "I bought it last year. We finally got the renovation done last month. I was just coming by to check the floor." Morgan looked over at the woman, then back at George, measuring his words carefully. "Well," he said, "I came in looking for something simple." "Just a shirt. Asked for something nice but not too expensive. That's all. But your employee here decided I wasn't welcome. She said this store isn't for people like me. That she doesn't like black men with money. And that she'd have security throw me out." George's eyes slowly turned toward the woman. The change in his face was instant, whatever warmth had been there evaporated. He took a step toward the counter. "Is that true?" he asked, his voice firm, quiet, dangerous in its restraint. The woman opened her mouth, tried to form a denial, but the words stuck in her throat. I didn't mean it like that," she stammered. "He was acting weird, and he got aggressive first." George held up a hand. "Don't lie. I heard the last part myself." Her lips trembled, and she looked around as if expecting someone to come to her defense, but the shoppers nearby had all stopped, watching, some recording. No one speaking in her favor. George turned to Morgan again. "I'm so sorry, Morgan. You should never have been treated like that in my store." Morgan nodded once, saying nothing. George looked back at her. "Take off your badge. Leave your key on the counter. You're done." Her eyes widened. "Wait, no, please, you can't be serious." "It was a misunderstanding, no," George interrupted. "You don't get to throw that word around. This wasn't a misunderstanding. You were clear. Everyone here heard it. You don't belong in a place where we treat people with dignity." Her lip curled. "You're firing me? Over him?" George didn't flinch. "Yes. Over him. And over every customer you probably treated like garbage when I wasn't here. You're done. Get out." She stood frozen for a second, then yanked off her name tag and dropped it on the counter, her hands shaking. She walked past them in a huff, muttering under her breath, and when she passed Morgan, she glared at him, but he didn't return it. He looked away, like he couldn't even be bothered. When the door closed behind her, George exhaled. "Jesus," he said. "I don't know how long she's been pulling that kind of behavior, but I'll make sure this never happens again." Morgan nodded. "I appreciate it. I'll find someone else to help you," George said. "Someone respectful. Hell, I'll help you myself if you want. Anything you need, it's yours." Morgan offered a small smile. I'm still going to pay for the shirt. George chuckled softly. Of course. Within minutes, a new clerk, a young woman with kind eyes and nervous energy, stepped up to assist Morgan. She helped him with the shirt he'd picked and even suggested a couple others in his size. She didn't bring up his name, didn't gush about his films, didn't ask for photos. She treated him like a man shopping for clothes. Which, in the end, was all he ever wanted. And every time he came back after that, she was there, polite, helpful, smiling, not because he was a star, but because he was a person. George would wave from the office window, give a nod, and Morgan would nod back. No more shouting. No more insults. Just respect. And peace.